Hi, it's Gwen from Hummingbird Tarot, and today I'm doing a video response to Ethany's 31 Days of Tarot. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and don't forget to hit the bell so you're notified when I upload a new video. So today is day 12, and these are the oracle decks that you want to work more with in 2021 that you already have in your collection. All of the decks that I mention in this video, to them down in the description, so feel free to check that out if you're interested in finding out more about any of these decks. I picked 5. I have a lot, so I just picked 5. I have a lot of oracle decks, but I thought let's keep it to 5. These are ones that I have worked with in the past, and some new ones that have come into my collection recently, and I want to spend time with these. So the first one I'm going to talk about here on my shelf that I absolutely love is the Native Spirit. And this is by Denise Linn. I love Denise Linn's decks. One of the ones that I love the most of hers that I use all the time is the Sacred Traveler Oracle. And I'll share that. You'll see that in many of my other videos. But it comes with this great book, and this it talks about the Native American connection to these particular animals and or events or things in your life. Not events, I don't know why I said events, but you know, like the very first one that comes up is Grandmother Earth. That's obviously not a creature on the planet, but it is the planet itself. I don't know. I don't know. You tell me what you think. Oracle decks, for me, I have mixed feelings about there being a lot of print on the message. What do you think? Do you guys like it when there's detail? Do you like having no information and just figuring it out for yourself, the message that's on there? For me, one of the things that I like about this deck, let me just start flipping through, is, I'm gonna go this way. Sorry about the loud chair. Is that the messages are just so, I just connect so deeply with the messages. I love this deck, but honestly, I don't use it often enough to where I have all of the meanings memorized. Now, I could take a look at this and see the nature spirits and come up with my own interpretation of this, but I find that this deck, one of the things that I really appreciated about it so much is this card seems to connect so closely to what I have going on and the message that I need to hear in that particular moment, and so closely to the reading that I'm doing, that I find that I have to go to the book every time I use this deck. And let me just flip through and show you some more images here. And that's why I have mixed messages. So a lot of oracle decks, they have a lot more writing on the deck, and if there's a particular message, I mean, usually I go to a particular oracle deck because I like the energy of that oracle deck, and I want to hear what that deck has to say to me, not what my interpretation is of it. So I feel very differently about oracle cards than I do about tarot. The same way with your intuition and your gut. I don't know, tell me, do you guys feel the same way about tarot and oracle, and do you read them in the same way with your intuition and your gut completely with both of them? Do you go off of traditional images that you connect? Like if if you're reading this card, do you look at colors and what you know about the elements that are mentioned in here and any other connections in your life? Or do you like to connect to the intention and the meaning of the person who published, or the artist, or the author of the oracle deck? How do they work for you? And for me, I find the way that I typically interpret oracle cards is I go to a particular oracle deck because I'm looking for the energy of that deck, and I want to hear what that deck has to say, what its message is in that particular situation, based on the energy of that deck, rather than my own interpretation of it. So what I'd like to do, let me just read you something in this book. So let's say if you get, okay, let's go back to that Grandmother Earth card. So there's quite a bit So you have those 2 pages there, and it tells you the card meaning, it tells you what your native spirit wants you to know, and then it talks about the journey that's associated with that card. So the card meaning is to stop and take measure of your life, assess who you are and where you are, get grounded, make plans for the future, but don't act on those plans until you're ready to feel secure in stepping forward. And it goes on from there. And then your native spirit wants you to know Grandmother Earth provides the trees, plants, flowers, rivers, streams, oceans, mountains, and valleys, and supports us all with her bounty. She's stable and strong in her devotion to us. You are supported and loved, even if you're not always sure of it. And that's only a small portion of that message and what the native spirit wants you to know. So, and then the journey to deepen your connection to Grandmother Earth and bring security in all forms into your life. Walk barefoot on the earth, place your hands in the earth, or make investments. Imagine the strengthening, grounding energy of the earth filling you and your life. And it's just so incredibly deep and so heavy sometimes, the messages that I get from this deck. You know, as I was flipping through my decks, this is one I came across again. I was like, I love this deck. Why is this deck sitting up here? I need to pull this deck down no more. And one of the things that kind of holds me back is that I really connect to the messages that are in the book about this deck. But I've been reading cards for over 25 years, and I don't always like to have to go to a book to use a deck. I like just knowing what the meaning is and going with my gut and using my knowledge of years of reading of doing that. And so that's why I have mixed feelings about this deck, because I connect so closely to the meanings that are included in the book but I don't always like to have to get a book out when I'm doing a reading. So I don't know. Tell me what you think about that. The deck is a new one that came into my collection that I got for the holidays. And that is the Lantern Oracle. And this one, I really felt such a deep connection immediately to this deck. Here's what the back of the deck looks like. It's very large, larger than a standard Oracle deck is. You know, let me pull out, I'll show you the Native Spirit cards. I consider these to be a standard Oracle deck size. And I don't have a measurement of what that is exactly, but if you've read Oracle decks at all, you'll know what I'm talking about with standard size. So here's the standard Oracle deck size for the Native Spirit ones, and then the Lantern Oracle, is that what it's called? Yeah, the Lantern Oracle is taller and wider. So I don't always totally love larger decks because my small hands can't always handle them. My hands are actually a little tired right now from holding these larger cards. I've been working with my Oracle decks tonight through. You can see the message. I showed you the back, and I'm just going to take you through. You can see the message on here. So this one says, Spirit Self, be who you are as you are. This is what I'm talking about. If you work with a lot of different Oracle decks, and the Oracle decks all have different meanings and all of those cards, unless you work with that deck super closely and you memorize those cards, then if you don't know what the intended meaning based on, the artist, the author, whatever, you get to what that meaning might be. Here's another one. This one says, radical curiosity every time. Seeing as if for the first time, every time. I'm just going to flip through some of these other ones. Okay, so the one thing I don't like about this deck is that it's hard to get a grip. It's got a matte finish, like a rose petal finish on here. But look at just how compelling the images are. Every card in here is beautiful. Stunning artwork. It's one of those decks where you look at any of these cards and the emotions and the feelings are just almost pulsing off the page of the deck, off the card. Very deep, emotional deck. So I'm looking forward to, this is a book that I got, a deck that I got brand new in my collection. It's got a really nice thick book that came with it. 2 to 3 pages on every card that's in here. Most of the cards have like 3 pages in here. So you could spend a lot more time, if you don't mind, pulling out the book and doing your readings with the book and getting to know these cards really well. Or there's enough of a message, if you want to get the intended message of the card, to just look at the card and, you know, see what's being emoted on that card, and also connecting that to the message that's listed at the bottom. Yeah, I am really excited about using this deck. Okay. So the next one is an oldie but goodie. It came out fairly recently, last couple years. And it goes with one of my favorite tarot decks, which is the Everyday Witch Tarot. And this is the Everyday Witch Oracle. This is by Deborah Blake. These are huge cards too. It's got this nice book. Lots of writing in there. There aren't any images in the book, but the deck is really fun. It's got cats on the back, and then there's a message down at the bottom. But there's a lot going on in each of these cards here. And this is just such a fun deck, and I really love the artists. Appreciate that a lot, that artwork. And I think it just makes it so much more approachable. So I want to work with this deck more. This is an old favorite of mine as well. It's one of those decks how did that end up on the deck? How did that end up on the shelf? They have a lot of, so this one, I have kind of a funny story about this one. These are well-being cards. And this is by Esther and Jerry Hicks, The Teaching of Abraham. They have a lot of content online too. But so I ordered this deck through Facebook Marketplace, found it used, and I ordered it online, and it came fairly quickly. But it came in a box that was way too big for this tiny little box. And the box itself was kind of dirty on the outside. No big deal. But it was in great shape, and the cards looked brand new on the inside. But there was a box, I don't know, about this big for this tiny little box here, and there was clothes stuffed in and around the box, like the sender had things that they were giving away to, and donating, and instead of donating those or spending money on paper, then they just stuffed those old clothes around the box. And I got a good laugh out of that. They weren't clothes that I would wear. It's a very creative way to mail a package. So I'm curious, do you buy used decks? Some people have a hard time. I know some people have a hard time because of the energy that comes with the decks, and they have a hard time. For me personally, my belief is that my guides don't allow me to purchase any used decks that have energy in them that would harm me, and I always have that intention of there being positive white light surrounding any of the decks that I'm attracted to buy, and that they'd be good for my home. And for 99% of the decks, the used decks that I've bought, I've had really good luck, and even brand new decks that I've bought from users. I have gotten burned a couple times with knockoff decks that I didn't realize were knockoffs, but other than that, I still did end up getting a tarot deck that was the one that I purchased, but I got a knockoff instead of the real one. So ultimately I did get what I purchased, but that's the most I've ever been burned. But I'm wondering how you feel about buying used decks. Are you concerned about the energy that's attached to it, and how does that work out for you? But so anyways, back to this deck, the Teaching of Abraham and the Well-Being cards. So these cards are just jam-packed full of information. Let me take you through some of these cards here. So they have a small message on the front. So this one here, it says, I look for more reasons to appreciate. And then on the back of that card, there's a lot more information. And this image that's up here matches the one that's on the front here. And so this here on the back, it says, the more I appreciate, the better I feel. The better I feel, the more I'm allowing who I am to flow through me. The more I allow who I am to flow through me, the better I feel. So it just on the front of the card to a deeper level. And you just go through just positive messages here. The harder I push against it, the more I attract its essence. So that's working with the law of attraction. This one says, the universe knows me, the universe adores me. So, because I like a lot of the content that I see online, Esther and Jerry Hicks have done about the teachings of Abraham and what Esther and Jerry Hicks have done. And I also was drawn to the idea of cards that are focused on well-being and helping you focus on your well-being, especially in this year. So this came in, I got this last year, and I haven't worked with it a whole lot yet, just because I had other decks that I was focusing on at the time. So I really want to pull this deck out and spend some more time with it this year. Again, sorry about the chair being noisy. And then the last deck I have is one that's been in my collection, and this has come up in other videos before, and this is the Spirit of the Animals Oracle. And this is one of the ones, again, that I used to use a lot, and it disappeared into my tarot collection. And that is one of the challenges that you run into when you have a large tarot collection. So the cards are really big, they're huge. And let me go back to, I don't think oiling it would help either. So here's the Native Spirit cards again, and these are just huge. And the Native Spirit cards themselves are bigger and wider than, they're wider than tarot cards, standard tarot cards, tarot deck. So there's the back. And then they just have, again, you know what I think it is? I think I'm just really drawn to beautiful artwork. I am an artist myself, so anything that has beautiful artwork really appeals to me. And I'm going to go ahead, I'll read the message here. So there's a key message across the top. It's a unicorn, and it says infinite possibilities. And then the message is, you are the sovereign of the seen and unseen worlds. The magic of love surrounds you. Beauty transforms you. Listen to the spirits of light. Abandon the darkness. Go beyond the ordinary and become the legendary. And all of the messages in this deck are very positive. The artwork is amazing. And I know if you're one that doesn't like the words on the deck, then these decks might be challenging to you. But again, you know, the reason that I buy oracle decks is I'm attracted to the energy that that particular deck is projecting. And when I have the written message right on the card, I can get to the heart of what that intended message is for that card. And I don't have to open up the book, and I can get, I guess it's almost like getting a second opinion to me when I use it. It brings in, I sometimes use oracle decks as a clarifier when I want additional information on something, or if I just want to do one card, I can pull that, and I can have a huge variety of oracle decks in my collection without having to memorize all of them. And I can use a different oracle deck every single day if I want. And if they have the images on the card, then I get that information along with the writing on the card, then I get that information very easily without having to go to a book. And sometimes you just don't want to have to go to a book. However, if you have such a great oracle deck, like the Native Spirit oracle deck, that really adds so much more information in a guidebook that you can really connect to, that really, gets to the heart of the matter, then, why not? If it's a great deck like the Native Spirit deck is. And the Rider Totems, your life totem. If you have any other Oracle decks you want to recommend to me, please leave a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. Oh, you know what? There's something I always forget about in this deck. The one I just showed you. It has a poster in it. I'm going to open it up here. And it has, can you see all of this? So you're sitting in the middle. Prepare yourself within a sacred space, seated in the middle, facing north. Shuffle the cards, sit with them, and reverently ask your totem animals to reveal themselves to you. Spread the cards in a wide circle around you. Ask your animal spirit guides to direct your hand to their cards. The 9-card Power Animals spread. So, I've done this before, and it was a pretty powerful reading. Sometimes I like to just play with stuff that comes with decks like this. So, thanks for stopping by. I'll see you on the next time around.